The fifth key, the key of cessation. Make an ally of your mortality. Two quotes to begin with. Be cheerful, sir. Our revels now are ended. These are actors, as I foretold you, were all spirits, and are melted into air, into thin air. William Shakespeare, The Tempest. Let us deprive death of its strangeness. Let us frequent it. Let us get used to it. Let us have nothing more often in mind than death. To practice death is to practice freedom. Michel de Montaigne. Essays. The 15th to calm. One day, a young woman stormed into my office, 20 minutes late for a session, and as anxious and frustrated as could be. Grumbling and grousing, Meredith recounted a long string of acute annoyances that had served to make her day a highly stressful and unpleasant one. She'd been locked out of her apartment by her roommate. Her subway train had gotten stuck between stops. One of those little screws on the temple piece of her eyeglass frame had fallen out. And dignity of dignities, an automated teller machine had devoured her bank card. She went on and on about her complaints, working herself up into quite a lather. Life sucks. And then you die, she explained. Then she added, oh well, at least after I die, I won't have to deal with automated teller machines. How do you know? I asked her. She thought about that a second, and then it seemed my comment, which had been meant to prod Meredith out of her redundant complaining, succeeded. Her foul mood dispelled by laughter. Meredith spent the rest of her therapy session on a more philosophical bent. What did she know about death, she mused. Like the rest of us, nothing much. Only that it probably wasn't going to be business as usual. Only that it would likely render the attachments of aversions we so carefully cultivated in this world. Example, our cravings for sex, money, and Ben and Jerry's, our grudges against automated teller machines and public transportation. Wholly besides the point, only that the mystery of death had the power to make one look at one's day-to-day existence from an entirely new perspective. I'm amazed, said Meredith, that I never really thought about death this way before. But in this, of course, she is far from alone. Death phobia. In our society, very few of us devote much mental energy to pondering death or its implications for life. Intellectually, we know we will someday make the journey to what Shakespeare called the undiscovered country. But emotionally, either we use the fact as another reason to suffer anxiety, or we march headlong into denial. What we, quote, know, unquote, we do not really accept. Many other cultures throughout history have integrated death into their view of life in a psychologically and spiritually beneficial manner. Through religious and mystical beliefs, along with the attitudes and rituals such beliefs brought into existence, their psychic infrastructures incorporated death's reality rather than trying to suppress and evade it. Death was respected as the completion of a cycle, a return to the state in which we existed before we were born. In other times and in other places, death was bound up with the sacred, but in turn of the millennium America, we seem to have gotten things scrambled. Talk of death or anything having to do with death gives us the heebie-jeebies. It's as if we as a society have made a psychic, quote, typo, unquote, on a grand scale. We've rearranged the letters in sacred and just gotten plain scared. Walk through a bookstore or health food store or wander past a cosmetics counter today, and what do you see? An ever-widening range of tomes and pills and creams that promise us the secrets of anti-aging. Good deal, we think. No aging. Well, maybe no, you know what. But hey, even if we can't forestall, you know what, indefinitely, maybe we can look into those proliferating cryogenics services which, for a fee, will store our bodies, or just our heads if we prefer, in liquid nitrogen. Then, in the event that future scientific methods may someday enable us to book a passage back from the beyond, we will return little worse for the wear, though perhaps in need of a facial and a sun lamp. Certainly, we all share understandable reluctance to let go of the powerful ties that bind us to this existence. Indeed, none other than Timothy Leary, once world famous for his adventurous journeying into other realms, was quoted as asking when he first learned he had a terminal illness and was planning his own cryogenic stasis. Quote, "Why let the carefully arranged tangle of dendritic growths in your nervous system which store all your memories get eaten by fungus?" But as this traveler came to see, and as we all travelers must come to understand, the real question concerning death is not why, but, as Leary's very last words, reported by a friend at his bedside, were, why not? Because death is a part of life, because all things that take form ultimately dissolve, and all things that begin ultimately end. And most of us, because until we are reconciled with these truths, we will never really be at peace. Understanding the key of cessation. The fifth key to calm, the key of cessation. Cessation literally meaning going from action to rest. Says make an ally of your mortality. When we really think about death without considering it an enemy to be vanquished, that is, a lot of amazing things can happen. It can alter profoundly what we choose to spend our time on, what we think is important, what we truly value, and what's worth worrying about, and what's not. Indeed, for all that gives life meaning, we have our mortal cessation to thank. Do you recall the classic play Our Town by Thornton Wilder? You probably read it back in high school English class. In it, a young woman, Emily, who dies after giving birth to her second child, asks to go back and relive just one day of her life in the simple town of Grover's Corners. Emily's wish is granted, but what she finds is not what she expected. The humdrum details of everyday life, the smell of coffee, the ticking of clocks, the look of sunflowers, the feel of a hot bath or a freshly ironed dress, overwhelmed her with their richness and beauty. So, do the relationships between her and the people she loved? Oh, Earth, laments Emily, you're too wonderful for anybody to realize you. Through her tears, she asks the stage manager, in brackets the character who appears to administer the realm of life and death, end bracket, Quote, do any human beings ever realize life while they live it? Every minute? No, the stage manager replies. And of course he is right. None of us can be aware and awake every minute. As another character among our town's dead says, most of us in the realm of the living tend to, quote, move about in a cloud, unquote, and are, quote, always at the mercy of some self-centered passion or another, unquote. There are, however, a few among us who manage to, quote, realize life, unquote, as Wilder so eloquently puts it, much of the time. For example, in this book, Thoughts Without a Thinker, Mark Epstein, a psychotherapist and practicing Buddhist, tells a visiting monk named Akan Cha at a Thailand monastery. One day, the monk gave a lesson. He picked up a plain drinking goblet and explained that to him it was beautiful. It held water adequately, reflected the light when held up to the sun, and rang out prettily when tapped. But really, the goblet was most beautiful to him because it was, quote, already broken, unquote. The fact that at some point the glass was destined to fall from a shelf or be brushed off a table by an errant elbow and shatter into fragments and precisely what made it so worth cherishing. What if each of us were to try each day, if not every minute, then at least for a few moments, to employ this point of view? What if we were to reflect on the reality that everything, the glasses we drink from, the chair we sit on, the books we read, to ourselves, and indeed even our very selves, are destined, quote, to break, unquote? Well, that's morbid, you say. But is it? Think about watching a young infant at play, smiling and cooing, rhapsodizing over a rattle. We watch this and our hearts feel full to overflowing, not just because the baby is adorable and lovable, but because deep down we understand that this baby's babyhood is fleeting by and soon will no longer exist. Where the tiny baby was, something else will be: a toddler, a schoolchild, an adolescent, an adult. That is the way things are. And though we are all here now, someday someone else will be in our place. Like many societies who went before ours, or who coexist with ours in other places on this planet, we could actively choose to label this reality not as morbid, but as sacred. If we do so, choose, then our seemingly ceaseless anxiety about getting more of this or getting rid of that would be put to rest, because all ordinary things would seem extraordinary, and we would value what we had. Then we would stop trying to, quote, fix, unquote, everybody and everything, because we would understand that there isn't anything we can permanently fix. Then we would stop obsessing on predicting and controlling outcomes, because we would already know and accept the ultimate outcome. With many of our anxieties thus quelled, we would free up enormous sums of energy to make the best use of this life while we still have the opportunity to do so. The key of cessation in action. But what is the best use of life and of our own life's energy? I'm reminded of the boy who comes home from school having acquired the knowledge that the sun is going to go supernova in 1 billion or so years, and asks, quote, so why do I have to do my homework, unquote? We too often seem to wonder, what's the point? In our recent history, the predominant answer has seemed to be the point is to acquire a lot of things. Or, as one popular 1980s bumper sticker put it, whoever dies with the most toys wins. But acquisition is really a goal of the busy mind, which wants to insulate itself by accumulating things which it believes will act as barriers between itself and unwanted emotions such as fear and worry. Yet having exclusively material goals in life only increases our anxiety level. Two Zen parables illustrates how too much attachment to material goods can undermine peace of mind. In the first, a farmer finds a priceless gold statue, reputedly one of 19 gold icons. His friend and family are overjoyed, but immediately the farmer starts worrying. Where are the other 18? In the second, a famous general is polishing an antique cup that is very dear to him. He nearly drops it and becomes frantic. He wonders why he can fearlessly lead soldiers into battle, yet be terrorized by this tiny teacup. When he realizes how much his attachment rules him, he throws the teacup over his shoulder and shatters it. When I came across these stories, I couldn't help recalling the old George Carlin routine, in which the comedian makes fun of our propensity for gathering, quote, stuff, unquote. We buy a house and fill it with stuff. Then we get so much stuff we fret that we need a bigger house. If we go on vacation, we obsess on how much stuff we can bring with us. And if while on vacation we embark on a day trip, we cram as much of our traveling stuff as possible into tote bags, knapsacks, and king-size handbags. Now, I like stuff as much as the next red-blooded American consumer, and there's nothing wrong with enjoying nice things. I obtain, for example, enormous pleasure and satisfaction from typing these very words on my trusty, efficient, easy to operate Macintosh Power PC. But let's face it, when my time comes to move on, wherever it is that I'm going, my Macintosh is not coming with me. So while I appreciate it, I try not to overvalue it or fret that I need a better, faster, newer model now. Like all of us, I have to take care to remind myself the ultimate satisfaction in life cannot be derived from a computer or a car or anything I claim to possess. It's ironic that many people even use acquisitions as a means of countering their fear of death itself. Getting and spending may offer the illusion of immortality for a brief moment, but such a strategy is doomed to backfire because much of our fear of death can be fear of parting with things to which we are attached and things that we perceive as, quote, belonging, unquote, to us. Yet nothing actually belongs to us. On the ultimate journey, one packs light and customs regulations are strict. You can't take anything with you. Not your designer luggage, not your American Express card, not your physical body, not your opinions, attitudes, feelings, or busy thoughts. Though it may not appear so at first, this truth actually points us into the direction of calm. For once we accept that we actually own nothing, we realize we have nothing to lose. What's more, we now have everything to give. Now, the real point of what we are doing here, if we are all going to die anyway, becomes clear. If we can't take anything with us, the point must lie in what can we leave behind. So what exactly can we leave? All physical things erode. Even the house and jewelry we may will to our descendants, even the vital organs we may donate to a sufferer of illness. Ultimately, then, the point lies less in what we give than in what spirit we give it. As the Buddha says, neither fire nor wind, birth nor death can erase our good deeds. The one thing that can be our everlasting legacy is our positive intent. That is the selfless acts we have performed on behalf of others out of unconditional acceptance and love. To put the key of cessation into action, we need to begin to prioritize what we do and how we expend our energy in the context of positive intent. In modern life, we are anxiously torn between so many tasks. We are pressured to accrue more and more and achieve more and more. In addition, we are made to feel that unless we do everything expertly, work out until we have the ideal body, emulate Martha Stewart so we can make a breathtaking centerpiece from sock lint and twine, we are somehow insufficient. Unsure which of these activities, if any, will bring us the sense of peace and fulfillment we crave. We stretch ourselves to the breaking point, attempting to, quote, pack it all in, unquote, so that we can be sure we are, quote, really living, unquote. But if you let your mortality advise you, your sense of frantic urgency will diminish. Think about it. When you have left this life, this body, what bit of your essence do you want to survive you? What memories do you wish to leave people with? Picture a memorial service where friends, colleagues, and relations stand up and say, "This was a guy who always checked his email." Or, "He drove a cool car and waxed stick compulsively." How about, "She was always able to find a bargain"? Some legacy. But how about, "He was never too tired to read bedtime stories to his kids"? Or, "She was never too busy to listen"? Or, "This was one fellow who knew how to appreciate the little things in life, and who knew how to make us all laugh." That sounds more like it. For when it's all said and done, such effort resonates eternally, with one positive intention inspiring another and another ad infinitum. This is karma, or universal cause and effect, in the truest sense. Obviously, not all of life can be spent executing good works, and not every moment will be spent actively appreciating life's bounty. Bills must be paid, phones answered, lists compiled, and dutifully checked off. Such is the upkeep of our day-to-day lives. But keeping the goal of positive intent in mind helps us focus, helps us make choices, and helps us separate the wheat from the chaff. It helps us remain calm too, because we realize, quote, having it all, unquote, and, quote, doing it all, unquote, are not worth worrying about. And because fear of death turns to respect for death when one concentrates on living with positive intent. So the next time you are frazzled by the prospect of too many chores, too many commitments, too many goals, try using the following method to settle on which activities to focus on. Ask yourself, if this next hour were my last on earth, how would I choose to spend it? Or which of these things would I most like to be remembered for? Then pursue your choice wholeheartedly. A note on afterlife. Having said this much about death, it would be a grievous omission not to note that many people believe in a rebirth of sorts after death. Some strongly believe in the eventuality of rebirth in heaven and are greatly reassured by this conviction. Others believe they will reincarnate again on earth. This belief, too, for the millions and millions who subscribe to it, can offer profound emotional sustenance. As Henry Ford, who came to believe avidly in this prospect, put it, quote, "When I discovered reincarnation, I was no longer a slave to the hands of the clock. I would like to communicate to others the calmness that the long view of life gives to us," unquote. Much silliness and nonsense has been perpetrated around the concept of reincarnation. It is, for example, unlikely that as many of us as claim to actually pre-existed as Indian princesses or members of Egyptian royalty. It could be argued as well that some popular notions of an afterlife in heaven wherein we are all handed harps and halos at the door and spend eternity floating about on cloud wisps also seem somewhat romanticized. It's understandable, therefore, that some people remain skeptical about an afterlife. Besides, doubters say belief in an afterlife is not based on scientific fact and so is not logical. But in the great scheme of things, who's to say what's really logical? As Voltaire philosophized, it's not more surprising to be born twice than to be born once. As Candace Pert, a world-renowned brain researcher, posited, matter can neither be created nor destroyed. And perhaps biological information flow cannot just disappear at death and must be transformed into another realm. Besides, as Woody Allen noted, the idea that there may be no afterlife can be, quote, a depressing thought, particularly for those who have bothered to shave, unquote. Still and all, no one can make you believe in an afterlife, and such belief is not necessary in order to put the fifth key to calm into effect. Whether you believe you will live in heaven, live again on earth, or be reborn simply as a part of the grass that grows, prioritizing your earthly existence in terms of positive intent will soothe and quiet you as you progress through this life and as you approach its natural end. Unlike all other earthly things, positive intent is not, quote, here today, gone tomorrow, unquote. With positive intent as your legacy, you will have penned your signature across the scrolls of eternity. That is a common thought if ever there was one. The theologian Ivan Ilyich said, quote, "At the moment of death, I hope to be surprised. I wager his hope will be realized." Death is a mysterious creative force. While we are living, we will never have all our questions about it resolved. So be it. We can still, quote, make sense, unquote, of death as a teacher and calm ourselves by doing so. After all, we will never have all of our questions about life resolved either. But as we will see in the sixth key to calm, we can also make sense of life in a way that will serve to alleviate anxiety.